Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 290 of The Joy of Coding. My name's Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. It's been a little while. I was not streaming for the past 2 weeks, and I'm back. And it's episode 290. We're only 10 episodes away from episode 300, which seems like kind of a big deal. I'm pretty excited about that. Sorry about that camera movement there. Yeah, pretty excited about that. We're hopefully going to have, something interesting planned for episode 300. If you've got ideas, I want to hear about them. Maybe there's something interesting you want me to hack on. Who knows? Episode 300, it's coming up. But without further ado, we've got some Firefox hacking to do today. I'm going to try and center myself in this camera feed. Let's get started. I'll start by sharing my screen. Okay, so yeah, it's June 1st, 2022, episode 290. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I know roughly what I want to do today. I generally have a vague sense of an arc for how this episode is going to go, but I haven't planned any of it, really. Like, it's, things might go wrong, might get stuck, sidelined, sidetracked, might not be able to get through all of it. It's okay. We're capturing software development in the wild, in the raw, so if things go wrong, that's just part of how it works. And the second thing I want to mention is that the agenda that we're looking at is something you have access to. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the video description. If you're watching this on diode.zone, because I'm syndicating there now, I'm streaming there, check out the video description as well. On Mozilla, it's in the links in the details section. And for the folks in Twitch, the link to the agenda I will now drop into the Twitch chat. Hopefully you can see that. I have no idea. Oh, thank you. I just got a tea delivery. I have no idea whether or not the Twitch chat's working. I hope it is. If it's not, I'm not sure I'd know because I can't see the Twitch chat. Maybe if there's someone in the Twitch chat who can just say something and let me know whether or not you can hear me and whether or not the Twitch chat's working and whether or not you can see the agenda. Oh, Piece of Pizza says it's working. There we go. It's working. All right, so that's the agenda. There is an episode guide. You should check out the episode guide if you want to know things that I've covered in previous episodes. Maybe you're watching this in the future, you want to know what I cover in this episode without having to watch the whole episode. Check out the episode guide. Links in all of those same places as before. And the episode guide is completely viewer driven. If you yourself want to add additional notes, addenda, corrections, you want to expand upon something I talked about, who knows? Send me a pull request to the repository. If you're not sure what that means, a pull request or a repository, there's a guide, a contributing guide here in the agenda. So make those things as useful to yourselves as possible. I have a couple of shout outs because I promised I'd give some shout outs to people. I want to give a shout out to Amy and Katie. Amy is one of my colleagues. Katie is her sister, and they're going on a big camping trip, out in the wilderness. I want to wish them, a great trip. Getting disconnected and going out into the wild just for a while and to be in nature and enjoy the weather and stuff. And so I wanted to wish them a great trip. Have a good time out there. And I also want to shout out my Uncle Mark, who is arguably one of the, if not the most influential, one of the reasons why I got into computing in the first place. Got me connected with my first programming books, showed me how to program in BASIC. Lots of that sort of primordial programming stuff that got me interested in it early. And I don't think I'd be where I am without him. So thank you to my Uncle Mark. And I know he listens to this. I'm very flattered. He apparently watches this stream. So shout out to my Uncle Mark. Thanks, Uncle Mark. All right, so let's get started. What do I want to work on today? Well, I actually wanted to continue something that we'd started last episode on May 11th, where we were working on this, allowing the privileged about content process to use the page icon protocol. And if you're not sure what any of that means, just record scratch, pause this video if you're watching the recording and watch the last episode, because you'll get all the context. So if you're watching this recording, I'll give you a second to pause. And welcome back. We're continuing on with that. And there's actually been quite a bit of progress since then. I've been working on making this thing work. I don't think we ever actually got it working during that stream. We kind of set up some infrastructure and started to like sketch out a solution, but we hadn't gotten it working by the end of that stream. Well, guess what? I have it working right now, and I can demonstrate it for you. And we can take a look at some of the patches. The patches are up for review. They've been going through some review cycles, and they're almost all reviewed. There's one patch that still is going through some review cycles. I thought we might apply some review feedback today, but I also wanted to, because I know we had covered it during the last episode, I wanted to show you the progress I'd made on it since, so you can kind of get the full story. So the way I ended up doing this was by breaking it down into 4 discrete chunks. Breaking this project down to 4 discrete chunks, because it turns out that we have a similar problem that we solve whenever we show thumbnails for websites. We don't actually show thumbnails for websites anymore, but we used to show thumbnails instead of these big fav icons for particular sites inside of the new tab page. And that mechanism runs inside the privileged about content process, and it uses much the same techniques that we needed to use for making the page icon protocol work. And so the suggestion that I got from Nika and a couple other people I spoke to was like, okay, see if we can reuse some of the same approaches. And it turns out it's not just the same approach. It's possible to reuse some of the code, because there were some like utility classes inside of the page thumb protocol handler that I could turn into like a common set of utilities. And so that was the first step, is to split out the utility, which was called page thumb stream getter, but it can be made generalized. We can generalize it. I split it out into its own file, and I called it remote stream getter. Here, let me collapse this so you can take a look at what I'm talking about. So basically, like, this didn't do anything towards making the page icon protocol handler work or work differently. It was mainly some like reorganizing of the code to take this utility class, which there was no definition inside of the header. It was all like internal to the page thumb protocol handler file here. See, it was like all of this stuff. This is what I wanted. And I wanted to highlight something else I did. If you look at this patch, it looks like I removed a lot of code. Like all of this red on the left indicates removed code. But what is actually happening, yes, I removed a bunch of code, but if you look at the files I touched, like remote stream getter and remote stream getter.cpp and header, they were copied from the original CPP file. So the original like utility was inside of the CPP file for page thumb protocol handler. I made 2 copies of that file using Mercurial, and I removed everything else around the header and everything else around the implementation. Now, why did I do that? What's the utility? That seems like kind of a long way around to get what I wanted. Why didn't I just like copy and paste the text out into 2 new files? And the answer is, this helps preserve history, like what's called like blame history or annotation history on like who touched what lines. This preserves that. When you copy a file in Mercurial, you copy the history of that file. And so it doesn't change the functionality of what I wrote. What it does is it makes it easier to do archaeology in the future. So this is something I've learned to do when I'm like working on Mozilla code, because oftentimes, I mean, if you are a long time watcher of the stream, you'll see that I spend the vast majority of my time like reading code. I think that's true. And it's important to be able to dig through the past and understand like why things are the way they are. And that's difficult. That's made more difficult whenever you suddenly reach the beginning of the history of a file and it's just like suddenly code showed up. That's less descriptive than, hey, this got extracted from page thumb protocol handler, and here's what it looked like before, and here's who touched those lines, et cetera, et cetera. So we're able to keep that by copying that original source file into the header and the CPP file, and then removing everything around it. So I thought that was kind of interesting to note. And so the header is pretty straightforward. Like it's this class that we call remote stream getter. It implements a couple of it implements something called NSI cancelable, which basically is just there's a cancel request or like a cancel method on it, so we can cancel an attempt to get the remote stream. and then the actual implementation is not very fancy. It wraps. Let's see. We don't do a whole lot, but what we do is we hold on to what's called a channel, and we hold on to a listener, and we make a request over IPC to the parent process to go get an input stream back, and then we plug that input stream into the channel, and almost as if we'd done like a network load or something, an asynchronous network load. So here's the on stream part where we plug in, we get the input stream from the parent, and we take it and we use what's called an input stream pump to like pump the input stream into the channel via this listener thing. It's very abstract. It's very abstract. Channels, stream listeners, pumps, pipes. I'm having to deal with a lot of this stuff. But that's ultimately what the first step was, is abstract out that utility class. And that was very handy. The second step was a lot simpler, which was, okay, now that we've sort of gotten it out, let's make it more general. And make it so that the IPC message that it uses, because it was asking for like page thumbnail information, and it would send like a very specific page thumbnail message. Like if we look here, it was like send get page thumb stream. Yeah, the remote stream getter sends a very specific IPC message of saying, hey, get me the page thumb stream for a particular URI. And that's not going to be very useful if we want to make remote stream getter more general. So what this does is we make it so that we don't just get an input stream now. We need the metadata as well. We want the content type and the content length, but we also get the input stream. So that's what we're going to get back from the parent. And we make it so that you can call with, whenever you set up the remote stream getter, you can tell it what IPC message to send. And so the sort of the contract that you have to follow is that the parent process has to be able to respond to a message of a particular format. And that format looks like this. You have to be able to return what's called a remote stream. Was it a remote stream process? Is that what we called it? Is that what this is? Hang on, I just have to find where it happens. A method. Yeah. You need to be able to return, you have to return a remote stream promise, is I think what happens. And that remote stream promise resolves to a remote stream info maybe. A maybe remote stream info. If you're not familiar with maybe, it's a bit like result from Rust, where it might have a value, it might be what's called nothing, which is similar to Rust's is some or none, is none. And so maybe is one of those things. And so the way we do that sort of generalizing of the method call is here, where a method is actually passed as an argument to get a sync. So let's see that in action. So when you're dealing with a remote stream getter, you construct a getter, and then you say, okay, use this method to send the IPC message to the parent. And this method must follow a particular contract. It has to, where did I define method? Here, it must return a promise that resolves to a maybe remote stream info. That's what it is. And a remote stream promise is similar, but it's what happens inside of the parent process when going to get the remote stream. It's all a little convoluted, but that's the idea. That's the idea. And that part's reviewed. That part's done by our intrepid Neko team. The third thing is it turns out that there's some extra information that we need when we... all this plumbing talk. We need a Mario sound. You got it. Down the pipes. Is there a down the pipes sound?
It's me, Mario.
I don't think I've got a down the pipe sound. I should probably have a down the pipe sound. But
Here we go!
let's do Zelda Secret. So yeah, all this stuff, very intense. And then here we're passing more information, not just the URI for the load, but we also say, here's the information about the load, not just where we were going to, but like meta information about the load. We have to pass that as well, because the page thumb stream never needed that, but the other, the page icon stream, which we're going to add when we finally do like the page icon handler, does require load info. So this patch added the load info, even though page thumb stream never ends up using it. But it ends up being a thing that you can serialize and send up to the parent process. And see, here we see the parent receiving it for get page thumb stream and then just like never doing anything with it, which is fine. You know, it's okay. Okay, now we get to the real meat. All of this was like setting the stage and giving us the mechanisms to implement the page icon protocol handler. And that's what this patch does. And there were a couple of things that I needed to do. The first was to make it so that the page icon protocol, one of the script security primitives or script security mechanisms that we use, checks to see whether or not certain protocols can be operated at certain points. And this one, I added page icon saying, hey, you can only run this if you're in the parent process, so you're privileged code, or you're of the privileged about remote type. And that's true as well for the page thumb scheme. So I was like kind of drafting off of the page thumb protocol. And then we added our IPC message that implements the contract of returning that promise of a remote stream info. Then inside of Neko parent, we respond to that message here. We receive the request for page icon stream. We do some additional checks. We double check and make sure that we're not being tricked, and we check to make sure that the process type that's requesting it is actually the privileged about one. And if it's not, we'll kill it right away. We definitely don't want, web content somehow tricking, like a compromised content process somehow getting this information. We'll just crash it immediately, that process. We double check some other metadata, and then eventually we get ourselves the page icon protocol handler, and we pass it the URI, the load info, and this special out param called terminate sender, which does some checks, I think, on the URI and load info. And if it turns out that terminate sender returns true, then we will say, okay, well, something's gone horribly wrong. The page icon request was malformed from the content process. That thing's probably not in good shape, and will kill the content process. Otherwise, the promise that we get back, this is kind of interesting. I don't know if we ever saw using promises in C++ last episode, but this is how you deal with it. You wait for the input stream from the or the remote stream from the protocol handler's new stream method, and then you execute these functions. It's a little different because in C++ you can execute on different threads. You can execute functions on different threads, and that goes as well for the callbacks for your promises, like your resolve or reject. So you have to tell it what thread you want to execute on, and I want to execute these on the main thread. So I say, okay, well, target it there. You give it this metadata of where the promise originated from, the then originated from, and then in the event that we get the info, we'll wrap it up in a sum, and we'll resolve with that info. We'll resolve the outer promise. So there's like two levels of promises here. But if it rejects, and there's a reason for that two levels of promises, if we cannot get the input stream promise, then we will resolve with nothing. That's the other thing that a maybe can have. It's either something or it's nothing. And this is just like a top level constructor. And the reason for that is you'd never want to reject one of these promises unless you intend to indicate that like the content process needs to like kill itself, basically. And I guess we could have done that here. You could have rejected here, but these are also ways of forcibly terminating the content process. If you reject, I'm pretty sure what you're doing is you're trusting the content process to take itself out. Yeah, Moz promise rejection is reserved for channel error and disconnect. So we can't just reject the promise here. So we resolve with nothing. That's how we indicate that something's gone horribly wrong. And then here's the real meat of the thing. We do a bunch of boilerplate to set up returning that stream. We set ourselves up we modify some utilities inside of the existing page icon protocol handler to make it easier to get a stream rather than having to deal with a channel, because in the parent process we wouldn't have access to the underlying channel. The channel is in the content process, and we're asking the parent to give us a stream of bits to pipe into that channel. And so I had to make the stream default favicon method, the static method, more generic, so that it's not dealing with channels, it's dealing with streams. We made it. I had to make it a little more promisey. It's one of the issues with promises in C++ and in general, I find, is that promises seem to beget other promises. Like, it almost, I don't want to say infects the code base, but like whenever you start using a promises somewhere, the advantage of being able to chain promises is, or like pipe them into one another, connect them together, sort of demands that things that your function, which returns a promise, touches also then return a promise. Like, at some point you have a callback. That's ultimately what happens under the hood. You get to decide where that border is. But ultimately, I found that it was easier to just like use more promises to get what I needed. And there's a little bit of like running around in here and setting some stuff up and subbing in that channel. If we turn out that like, okay, we're in the content process, we will attempt to sub in a new channel that's a remote channel that will do the work of like sending the message to the parent. It'll like spawn the remote stream getter. So that happens right down, where is it? It was under favicon data. New channel, internal is not it. It's substitute remote channel. So this thing will do the work of like creating our stream getter and then returning a simple channel that will get the information piped into it once the stream getter has the information. And that connection between the stream getter and the channel happens inside this new simple channel method right here, where we kind of like wrap it all up together. It's a lot of gobbledygook, but basically we construct a simple channel, we get this like callback function which gives us the listener a simple channel, and then we say, okay, remote stream getter, go and get that stream, and then tell the listener that we got from the channel constructor about it and this channel, so that we can ultimately return a result to the caller. So that's the idea. I see some chat. How can I get a job at Mozilla? And then SmurfD very helpfully pointed to the careers page. Shandao goes, no remote jobs. And then SmurfD says there are a bunch of remotes, but they're mainly from the US or Canada. Is that, yeah, remote, Germany, remote US, remote Canada, remote, Germany, remote Toronto, remote France, remote UK. So there are tons of remote jobs. They're from Asia. Oh, I see. Where else do we have? Do we have any jobs in Asia Pacific? Like Taiwan, Taipei office? No, I don't see it. Remote. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're hiring in that locale, in that region right now. Sorry about that. But this is where you go if you are interested in a job at Mozilla. Mozilla.org/en. Well, I mean, use where I end up going is careers.mozilla.org. If you go there and you press enter, then you will get this big list, and you can check out all of these different job postings. Some may or may not be of interest to you. Okay, so we've got our patch. It's ready to go. It's going through review cycles right now, and I've got review feedback. And what I wanted to do, now that I've spent the past half an hour or so explaining where we got to with this, I want to apply some review feedback that I just got. So I've already gone through a number of rounds of review. I commented on some things, and then I got this most recent set of review comments from Nika, who's been super, super helpful this whole time. She has been like basically the reason why this project is getting done. And she had some suggestions for me. So I wanted to take a look at those. So that's where we're at. Let's get started. So the first thing she points out is that on line 149, I never actually initialize RV here. So it's some uninitialized value when you're, so it's an uninitialized value when you're rejecting with it here. You'll probably want to instead reject with a specific error message and just return NSOK. And she recommends using NS error not available. So this is in the event that like we end up not getting any data back from the favicon service. So for example, maybe we did not find a favicon for a particular URI, which can happen all the time. And so the fallback is to show the little globe thing. So her suggestion is to reject with the NS error not available error code and then return NSOK from on complete. I think that's a very reasonable request. Let us, first of all, make sure I've got the right revision checked out. Yes. And do I have anything on the stack? Any uncommitted changes? No, I don't. So we're in great shape. Page, icon, protocol handler. This is line 154 here. So she's saying, hey, instead of using NS result RV right here, what we should do is we should reject with NS error unavailable. What's NS error not available? And then return NSOK. And down here we do still use NS result. And so that's actually going to get assigned something. And then we'll reject with the different error code down here. So that all, I think, makes sense. I think that's a fine suggestion. Next. Nika says there's actually a helper function for doing this conversion down here where I did something with a span. Yeah, I'm asking for a new input stream. And I have one of the arguments I have to like use something called a span. And what's nice about this is I don't have to rewrite using the reinterpret cast. Oh, she's been kind enough to show me exactly what I need. It's just as chars, a data len. Amazing. So we'll do that. Now I wonder if that's going to change some of the characteristics of the wrapping here. It will not. No, we still want. Actually, does I wonder what if I commit this, whether or not the linting code, the formatter, will want to do something special. Let us amend and see what happens. So it's oh, see, it reformatted it. Very nice. Okay, now let's also make sure that we can build. We'll build binaries, make sure that all works, and then we'll keep going. Elad difficult. Doug's watching. Brop, brop, brop. So one of my closest friends, I've known him for most of my life, is in the chat. Elad difficult says, "Hey champ, happy to see you're still streaming this. I'm usually at work at this time." He's saying, "Yo, Elad difficult, everybody, you should check out his stream." I don't know how much there is an overlap between people who like watching someone live hack on a browser and watching someone like stream games like Crypt of the Necrodancer. But if you are interested in Crypt of the Necrodancer or a whole bunch of different stuff, like Doug, Doug does a bunch of stuff. Check out his channel. He's got a Twitch channel. It's Elad Difficult is his handle. And so there might be some overlap. Who knows? It's a good game. Yeah, it's a very good game. It's very if you've never heard of Crypt of the Necrodancer, it's like mesmerizing because it's one of those games where, you know, it's a rhythm game, and so all of the graphics are very much aligned in synchronous with like the music that's playing underneath. It's a very catchy tune, so the whole thing's just like, you know, it's very hypnotizing, mesmerizing, I find. Hey, we hit ourselves a build failure. What is going on? I tried. I'm all pumped up now because Doug's in the chat. Woo, woo. Where did things go wrong? Where did I go wrong? So an error. I would presume the error is from that 2chars thing that I just added. It's possible I need to like import it. Finding the errors is sometimes really difficult, but what I like to do, I'll go right back to the point where like the build looks like it was going normal, and then there's a bunch of warnings. That's okay. And at some point, we'll see an error. And so I have to fuzz my eyes, and timed out waiting for server startup for SC cache. So that's actually not a build failure because of the code. It's a build failure because my SC cache is apparently not running, or maybe SC cache crashed. SC cache is a optimization build artifact cache that runs in the background to make it easier for me to build faster. And I guess it crashed. So if I try and build again, it might work because whenever SC cache is not running, whenever I build, it attempts to rerun it. So more chat. Danny Clone says they're gonna. Oh, Chandu says we'll try to send my resume to them. Let's hope I get a reply. I hope you do get a reply. Danny Clone says good luck. Smurfy says mock build into the error log works too. Yeah, that's a good point. Ocris lulls. And Elad says, I'm only going to be lurking, and you're homesick. Oh, no! Doug, get better soon. Get better soon, bud. I hope this is one of those, like, not feeling wells where you can relax and somewhat enjoy it, and not one of those where you're like, I'm just going to NyQuil coma my way through this. All right, so we got ourselves a build. It built. Let's make sure that the tests still work. Toolkit, components, places, test fav icons. It was test page icon protocol. We're gonna run the test. We're gonna make sure nothing untoward has occurred. We'll probably want to do some manual testing too, but that all looks good. Passed our test. Let's proceed. So that's done. Thank you, Nika, for that piece of advice. So Nika's advice, the next. There's one big simplification we could do here. If we removed M output stream and made favicon metadata contain an extra M stream member initialized to input stream here, this code is doing the async copy could be moved to happen in the resolve callback from new channel internal, and then pass the byte stream, which we got here, straight to the content process, removing the need to manually create a pipe at all in the remote case. It's a decently easy thing to do in a follow-up, so I'm okay to land without it, but I figured I'd mention it as a possibility. That sounds simple to Nika. For me, that sounds like a little more involved than like a little nit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this to the end. I want to try this, but I'm going to leave this to the end of this stream. So let's look at the next comment. Ideally, we'd still set that for image loads, as if web content could load, so they might be able to deduce what pages seen from history based on it. Of course, yeah, that's why we do not want web pages to be able to use the page icon protocol. I suppose it doesn't make it any worse than page thumbs already is, and it's limited to only the privileged about content process anyway, so hopefully not an issue. All right, that was just some commentary. Next comment. Nika says, this is unnecessary, as you can just use pipe out as an argument in these functions. I'll implicitly coerce to NSI output stream. You can just capture pipe out as an argument. Oh, I see. Instead of just creating new NSCOM pointers for output stream, we can just use pipe out here. Okay, because apparently it will coerce. Good to know. Not obvious to me. So that's on line near 268. And so we don't need NSI output stream. We just need pipe out. So we're going to sub that in there. Um, and then she says, this approach is fine, but for your information in the future, you can also wrap a raw pointer into something safe to capture, like... Oh. Well, you know what? I actually like this better. And this is good to know in the future. NSCOM pointer AURI. That's cool. I have no idea that you could do this. This is the super modern C++ that I am not used to. NSCOM pointer, what was it? A load info. Okay. Oh, it's not angle brackets. It's the curlies, and then pipe out and channel that we already have an NSCOM pointer to. And the reason we do this is to prevent these from coming off the stack and being like garbage or reference count going to 0 and then being destroyed before this callback function occurs, because we're in C++, meaning we have to do manual memory management. Cool. Anyway, that's really neat. I'm eager to see this build actually, because I've never seen this kind of thing before. So I'm eager to see whether or not the compiler actually accepts it. It sounds like it will. Nika knows what she's doing, but I'm very eager to see this build. I'm excited. I'm just pumped. I'm pumped because Doug's in the chat. Yeah, it sounds like relax and kind of enjoy. Couple of days. Oh, see, we got ourselves another issue here. Oh, but this is because of me. Wait, what? Oh, I see. Yeah, I got rid of a variable I was using up here, but I can just pass that in here because this happens in the same execution step as this function call. And so, yeah, what this is like a capture, because I want to make something abundantly clear. Whenever you call this function with these NSI URI pointers, we're making no claims about holding references to these right off the bat. We assume the caller owns these, or someone in the caller chain owns these arguments, but we don't do anything to keep them alive for within this function. Like, we assume that something outside of this function is not going to suddenly destroy these things for us, and we can make that claim for all of the execution steps that occur. But as soon as you have asynchronicity, where or maybe, yeah, whenever you give the event loop the opportunity to breathe again, and like we go back up the call stack and we will come back and execute these callbacks some later time, it's possible that these things will have been destroyed by the caller because the reference count went to 0. That's true for AURI because it's like we're just passing this raw pointer around. Same for a load info. But for channel we actually create an ASCOM pointer in this function, and we capture it into this in the closure for this callback, which keeps it alive until either of these two functions are executed, and then the reference count goes to 0, and then the thing will get destroyed. So that's the reason why I'm able to, for example, pass AURI here and load info here, because we're still in the same execution tick when we reach there. But when we get to these, at the declaration time of these functions, we say, okay, well, when these eventually execute, we need to use the URI that was passed into this function. Please assign these two variables that were passed in, load info and AURI, to these helper variables that will stay alive until the callback has finished executing. So this is a way we avoid crashing, which is very nice. And then a bunch of spam just entered the chat. I don't know what to do with that. Oh wait, no, that's Doug saying stuff in a language that I don't fully understand. So for context, I'm seeing Twitch chat through the Matrix bridge. That, long story short, I don't get to see the fun images that Twitch has. I just see textual representations. So what I saw was Papain to Skelejam several times inside of inside of the chat, and I don't know what that means. I also, it's not like if I'd seen the images, I would know what that means either. Like, I feel like Twitch has a culture to it that I don't fully understand. Like, there's this face that I will periodically see when people going like that enters the chat, and I'm like, I don't know what that emotion is. I'm completely behind. I'm a Twitch culture ignoramus. Even though I've been streaming on Twitch for a number of years, I don't know the culture at all. All right, so that actually failed to build, but that was because I was using the wrong variable there. I expect this to build now. Apparently, I'm missing out. I'm missing out on Twitch culture. Well, maybe it's time I get my act together and finally spend some time in other people's Twitch stream chat rooms so I can understand what the heck people are talking about. I think the last time I actually participated in a Twitch chat was when I was watching one of Doug's streams, and I showed up and was like, hey, which was long ago. Oh, there's another one as well. Whoops. A load info. That's what I want to use. And before that, it was probably like whenever someone did like Twitch installs Arch Linux, and I jumped into the chat for that, I think. And that was fun. Okay, so presuming this builds, what's the next piece of feedback? Yeah, we didn't need those. That's good. Pipe out will automatically coerce. So I didn't need outstream. Okay. And that was all done. And then there were some comments about the test I wrote. So I can work with that. Oh, this still is not building. What's wrong? Outstream. Use of undeclared identifier outstream. What was this before? Outstream. Pipe out. It's supposed to be pipe out. See? I should not be so cavalier. All right. The next comment was on the test, so let's open up the test file. Test, page icon, protocol. So this is our big ol' test. And the comment was like, hey, I don't think load frame script actually lets you await. So I guess this probably just returns undefined or something. Let's take a look. Content page load frame script. Content page is something we get from XPC shell content utils. Content utils, load frame script. Yeah, it just returns undefined. There's no return value. So yeah, awaiting it makes no sense. So we can get rid of that await. It looks like it basically just loads the frame script and instantly returns. You probably want to use content page spawn rather than load frame script. I think I actually tried to use content task spawn and it failed. I think let's see what happens when I try and do that. Spawn, content page spawn, and then params task. So I'm gonna say params, no params task. Let's see, can I run the test and will it execute? Oh, yeah, and we're awaiting it. So let's see what happens. Yes, that works. Amazing. Good stuff. What's nice about that too is that means we can abstract some of this stuff out. We can simplify, and that's good because I've got some repeated structures in here that I feel like we can deduplicate. So let's do this again over here. Spawn, and we pass in an empty structure, and that should pass. Oh, Elad says Twitch culture is actually pretty awful, but there are some great custom emotes out there. I know that this stream is largely inspired by Bob Ross. You know what? Yeah, it did start off by the Bob Ross. I haven't started to. At the beginning, I tried to have more of a like ASMR quality, and I've done it a couple times where I'm like, "Hey everyone, welcome to the joy of coding. Today we're working inside of the page icon protocol handler. And, you know, I think some people enjoyed that. I can't help but get excited about stuff, and so I have a feeling I don't have the Zen calm of Bob Ross. At least I can't maintain it, but I might go back to it. Is there any code that you could beat the devil out of? So the question is there code to beat the devil out of? There's certainly code that the devil is in. Yes. NS Docshell is the code where the devil is in, I think. Let's see. Where can I find examples of not sure if we need this anymore? What is this? Can we how does this work? Can we refactor this? This interacts poorly with the info bar. Like, this is some old stuff. And yeah, the devil is in this file. Most definitely. I wrote an entire blog post series about Docshell on my blog. If you look here, you can see that I started this series on like, hey, let's dig into how Docshell works. And I started to go through like the history of the file, going through like the Mercurial, the source control history of it and where it came from. And so if that at all interests you, you can go to my blog and read my blog about Docshell. I'll put a link in the agenda here. Let's see, Docshell blog posts. Here's another shout out to Elad Difficult. Get well soon. All right, so let's update the agenda. If you reload, you should be able to see that stuff in the agenda. Okay, where am I? Just looking at here. Okay, we were gonna simplify some of this stuff because we've got these repeated arrays of basically, you can think of these as a list of page icon protocols that we expect to work. And I have 2 copies of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put them at the beginning of the file up here with our other constants. And I'll say valid page icon URLs. And then down here, where we use URLs, down here where we use the spawn mechanism, we can, and because it's a single argument, we can just do it like that. That way our linting is happy. And here, this is nice and pretty. All right, get rid of this deduplicated, folks. All right, let's make sure the test still runs. Have I ever used titanium white? Yes. Let's see if we actually titanium white. What is the hex value for titanium white? Hex value. B4 B2A7. Let's see if there's any titanium white in the code base. B4 B2 A7. Is there any titanium white? No. All I see are like some decryption blob test stuff. So I've never used titanium white, but we could if we want to just have a little bit of fun. Check it out. Here. Let's make the background color of the new tab page titanium white. Here. So we've got our new tab page. Let's inspect the document, the body. What's the background color? New tab background color. Boring. Let's make it titanium white. What was the hex color? B4 B2 A7. Boom. Titanium white background color. Looks amazing. And while we're here, I can actually demonstrate the page icon protocol actually working. I've got a couple of test URLs that I like to use. This is for pages that we know are in history and in the page icon database whenever we start up. So we want this page icon to show the Mozilla logo. So instead of using a big old fat data URI, we can do page icon. It's so much more efficient. So much more efficient. and that works. Now, if you pass in a URI it doesn't recognize, like blah, 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 we get the favicon not found globe. That's what we want. And let's see if we can do Twitter. The Twitter website, the favicon is here. If I now set this to page icon twitter.com, what is it? Oh, there's no www. Sorry, no dub. Get rid of that dub. There we go. See, it works. Boo, 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 boo. Very nice. Nailing it for sure. And the other thing to keep in mind is we want to make sure that like your typical website can't use that same protocol, because if it could, that'd be a security issue. User page icon. Yeah, it'd be a like we'd be leaking user history. And so yeah, we have a security error here. Hey, you're not supposed to do that, and that's exactly what we want. Pages are not supposed to be able to use that protocol, but the browser UI can. So still working per normal. That's good. Let's keep going. So done that part of Nika's feedback. Might be nice to do some assertions in case once in those cases to do some assertions in here. Yeah. Now that we have got content spawn, I can use assert. So I can go like assert false. Or assert okay, false. Did not expect an error. Or wait, can I do like assert error event? No, I can't. And I can do assert okay, true. Got load event. Got expected load event. And then over here, we'll do the reverse where it's like did not expect a successful load because we're in the normal content process. Assert okay, true. Got expected load error. All right, let us run the test. Scooby-Doo. All right, still good. Good call, Nika. Same as above for load script method. Let's have a test for an invalid URI as well. So maybe instead of calling them valid page icon URLs, we're going to say page icon test URLs. So let's have a test for an invalid URI. So an invalid URI is like page icon. Like, is that an invalid URI? I think it is. There's no scheme, nothing like that. Danny Colin asks, if the browser, when fetching the page icon, what happens in the case of timeouts or just a slow connection? So we don't actually hit the network whenever we do these favicon fetches. We're not going to the website and getting them. Whenever you browse around on the internet, Firefox is gathering the favicons and caching them locally so that we can do like quick lookups. And like if you go to a website and they've updated their favicon, we will re-request it, show the most up-to-date one, and then cache the new ones. And so what the page icon protocol does is it tries to go get the cached copy. And if it can't find one, we'll show the little globe icon. Like it's not going to go and make the network request. Danny Colin asks, if the browser UI could it leak in a more privileged environment like an extension pop-up or page? Hopefully it doesn't. So the privileged, the extension protocol, the extension context cannot do it either. Like anywhere that an extension can put UI, like icons or something, that will be running inside of the extension process, and that does not have the privileges to use the page icon protocol. So I believe we're safe there. And then Yeah, I think that's it. Like anywhere a page icon or anywhere a web extension can like use JavaScript and markup and UI and could potentially use the page icon protocol, they're all running inside of the web extension process, which is not allowed to use the protocol. So it will explode on them, or it won't. It just won't load. Same as above with the load frame script method of not waiting. Yes, I've done that. Let's run our test again. Now that we have our invalid URI. That seems like it works. Await. I see those asserts in here, right? Got expected load events. Yep. Is it only doing one? Pass privileged about content process. Are we doing all of them? Got expected load event. Testing URL. Is this working the way I think it's working? Mysteries. Testing URL page. Oh. It's concatenating them all together. What are you doing that for? Async URLs. What? Why would it be stringing them all together? Content task spawn. A single serializable argument. I see. So maybe I'm being overzealous. It's not supposed to be an array. Maybe it's supposed to be this. Fireglow says, thanks for explaining. Hey, no problem. Thanks for asking. Okay, we got ourselves some failures. And now we are properly testing the individual URLs. Can't access property toString X is undefined in NS error abort when testing just page icon. An image process did not expect an error. So yeah, we're asserting false here. We're rejecting because we got an error. I think this is an invalid URI. Like maybe that's what I should have said to Nika here is like the is page icon sufficient? What kind of invalid URI were you thinking of? Like maybe something like page, instead of like HTTP, we could have it be like Chrome : / something like that. Is that what she wants? Yeah. Something.html. Or page icon, some scheme that it's never seen before, like foo Barbaz. Classic nonsense words. Okay. So I'm going to say, and I'm actually going to reorder some of these. For the following, the page icon protocol is expected to return the default favicon. To successfully return the default favicon. Okay, so that works, and hopefully that's what Nika meant. I've added a few. I've put some more. I've extracted this out to the top level to reuse between the two test tasks and added a few more invalid URIs. Is that sufficient, or were there more invalid URI types that you wanted me to test? Variations. Okay, and now we get to this one. I had left this for the end. So let's take a look at our diff so far. Not a whole lot. That's okay. We're going to amend, and we're going to look at this last comment, which I think is like the big one. So Nika says there's a big simplification we can do here. If we removed M output stream, which is part of the favicon data callback. Okay, so the favicon data callback class is used whenever we make a call to the favicon service. It's using an old callback style. It doesn't return a promise. It takes a callback structure that implements this interface and will have an onComplete method called on it whenever it's either succeeded or failed to get a favicon. And so Nika is saying, in that class, if we remove the output stream and made favicon metadata contain an extra input stream member initialized to input stream here, this code for doing the async copy could be moved to happen inside of the resolve callback from new channel internal. The resolve callback from new channel internal. Over here, the resolve callback. And we could pass the byte stream, which we got here, straight to the content process. Pass the byte stream. So, oh, I see. So we get an input stream out from get favicon data, and that's what we pass. In, pipe out. Wait. So the output stream is this argument. You can think of get favicon data, which is kind of trying to wrap some of this stuff up. It takes an output stream, gets the favicon service, creates the callback, passes that output stream to the callback for it to hold on to. The output stream is what we're having the callback write into. And I think what Nika's saying is, hey, instead of having the callback be responsible for writing into the output stream, have the callback be responsible for just returning an input stream, and then have the caller do the work of writing to the output stream. And in the remote case, which new channel, where's the remote case? Remote channel. In the remote case, get async, get page. It was like get favicon data. In the remote case, which is here, we can resolve the outer promise I see. We don't need a pipe anymore. Wait, no. I'm confused. Stream info, resolve. Promise resolve. We won't need the extra pipe, she says. Get streams. Okay, let's try this. Let's see if we can hammer this into shape. I think I know what she's saying, but let's try. Okay, so what she's saying is this favicon callback, let's get rid of the output stream member. This thing no longer holds on to an output stream member. In fact, what it needs to do, we want it to contain an extra mstream member initialized to input stream here. Favicon metadata. Favicon metadata. I think is defined in the, where's the struct definition? Here. Contain extra mstream member. Okay, so like nscom pointer, nsi input stream, mstream. I mean, it's going to default to being null, so that's okay. And then anytime we create a favicon metadata, we should have an input stream that we can then tuck into the metadata to pass out to the caller. Okay, I think I know what you're saying, Nika. I think I know what you're saying. I think I know what you're saying. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this output stream argument. Don't need that anymore. Don't need that anymore. Don't need the output stream at all. Instead, and we don't need to do an async copy here. Okay, so we've gotten rid of the output stream. Instead, what we do is with this input stream that we create here, we're going to write it there and resolve like that, and return NSOK. And then the caller, favicon metadata. The caller has the stream here in the what do we want to do with the stream here? Input stream pipe in. I think In this case, we have to do an async copy from the metadata mstream to pipe out. Can I do that? Is there... to pipe out. Yeah. I don't want pipe out here. Put it in the same order, probably. And then what's target? Target, we're going to do our async copy. What was the target? The stream transport service, which isn't being used anymore. If or as result RV get service. If we fail to get it here, we should probably give up. It's like if ns failed RV ns return. And then we'll do our writing here. And then the other place, that should take care of the non-remote case. And then in the remote case, we don't need pipe out anymore. We get our metadata. We can just pass in a metadata mstream, and we don't need pipe in anymore. Get streams. Does that work? Pipe out. I actually don't think we need it anymore at that point. This can go away. I think that's what Nika's saying. Then this can go away. Pipe in. Stream info. We might need it in this case. Otherwise, you just resolve with the stream that we got. Pipe out. Okay, then we don't need these anymore. If ns failed, ns warn if RV, then I think we should probably reject at this point. Reject. This error failure. Does that work? That's interesting how that will all just kind of like fall out. Let's see if this works. Will it build? And then after I'm done this, I think I'm whether or not this builds, I think I'm gonna wrap up the stream. I want to while we're waiting for this to build, I want to let you know if you have questions, anything you want to ask me. Maybe you want to know more about Elad's stream. You should ask Elad. You should go to Elad's stream. In fact, let me quickly link to Elad's stream. TV Elad difficult. It's been a while since I've been there. This is Elad's stream channel, is what I should say. This is Elad's channel. You should check it out. Got all kinds of good stuff in here. Crypt of the Necro Dancer. Check it out. So check that out. If you've got questions for him, you should go to his stream and his channel and ask him questions. If you have questions for me, there's this rate this episode form down here under the today links. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Did you you like what we went through? Did you like business? What happened here? You can let me know though in the rate this episode. You can tell me what you thought, and there's a section at the bottom where you can ask me questions. So just an FYI. Let's see if we can fix this build error before we call it a day. Elad says he'll be streaming a lot more this summer. That's right. That's right. Summer times for the streaming. I need to change the function definition. That's why. That's why. It's complaining. Smurf D thought it may have been FPS Doug. Nope. I'd say Elad difficult is somewhere between FPS Doug, Nickelodeon Doug, and let's see. If there was a Venn diagram, I don't know how much of an overlap there is between Nickelodeon's Doug, FPS Doug, and I'm trying to think of more Dougs. Doug Trio from Pokemon. Might be Doug. Elad Difficult might be the intersection of Doug Trio, FPS Doug, and Doug Funny. There you go. I really want to get this build failure to go away before I cap the stream. No matching function call to NS. Did I? What's the NS warn if NS failed? Oh, it's supposed to be warn if failed, not failed warn if. NS warn if NS failed. Warn if NS failed. Warn if NS failed. That's the idea. That's right. We've finally peeled back the layers of who Elad Difficult is. It's and it's this wild potpourri, this wild jambalaya soup. All right. Well, I think this build's gonna go through. He says before a build failure. Come on. What's going on here? Out of line definition of get favicon data does not match. Why not? 290. 290. Did I? Oh, because right. I don't need that argument anymore. And I've got a couple of other build failures here, or build errors. use of undeclared identifier on line 352. That's a classic mistake. I need, where's, yeah. Don't need that anymore. This cannot be implicitly captured in this context. Get streams. Maybe we did need those pipe ins and pipe outs. Okay, hold up. In which case, pipe in. There's URI pipe in, load info pipe out. All right, URI pipe in, load info pipe out. I'm kind of reverting some of this stuff because it turns out I think we want in the outer scope to create these pipes. We'll upon success, we're going to get an NSI input stream from the favicon callback that we can resolve our promise with. However, if that fails, we'll want to stream the default favicon. So we create some default, some fallback input and output streams here to write to in the event that this occurs. Okay. Which is probably okay. All right. Now will it build? Now will it build? Someone made, oh, it's Doug. Is this the Venn diagram? Yes. Yes. This is what was in my head. This is basically a diagram of what was in my head. Yep. Perfect. Perfect. It's my friend, Elad Difficult. Let's get this build going, eh? Let's go. Ah, you're killing me. Use of undeclared identifier output stream. On line what? 315. Right. I don't need that anymore, I don't think. Because we're not writing to it. Instead, yeah. I think that'll work. I don't know if this is going to work. We're going to see if I've misunderstood what Nico is asking for here. And in the good case, so in the non-remote case, do we do the right thing? I think we do. I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. All right. Will it build? Will it build to close out the stream? Will it build, and then will the test pass? I'm adding that little extra hurdle at the end. And then we will I'll do manual testing after the stream. But I agree with Nika. This is a nicer arrangement of things. Building a bird. This is my 3 cheese blend. Here, let's go. Test page icon protocol. How is Mac for coding so far? I want to buy the 14 M1. So I don't have an M1. This is an Intel Mac from 20. What's this? What is this Mac? This is from 2019. So it's a couple years out of date. I like it. What I like about Mac OS is in my line of work, I need to be able to work on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And what I like about Mac OS is that I can run Mac OS, like on Apple hardware. I can't virtualize Mac OS on Windows or Linux. It's against the EULA. It's against the terms of service. I'd be breaking the law, apparently, if I tried to run Mac OS in a virtual machine. And I definitely don't want to do that for work. Putting that on the record right now, I don't break the law for work. And so, sort of, I necessarily have to have a Mac, like Apple hardware, in order to do my job. Now, if I was only doing, if I was doing web development, you know what I'd probably want is a Linux box, just an Ubuntu Linux box. That's what I prefer. I mean, Mac OS is fine. It's fine. A Mac is fine. It's very powerful hardware. The hardware is fine. The trackpad's nice. I hear very nice things about the M1 processor, that it is extremely power efficient. So that's a plus. But if I were like buying my own personal laptop right now for doing like maybe a side project on, I'd investigate the Framework laptop. These things are not cheap, but they are they're built to be maintained, and you can like really soup them up and customize them. And but yeah, they're unlike unlike Apple, you can take these things apart and like replace parts very easily yourself with like a screwdriver, and you can assemble it yourself, which is really nice, and that takes some of the cost off of it. So and like bits and pieces of it can be like swapped out, which is really nice as well. So yeah, if I were buying a new laptop, I would get a Framework personally, for my own personal. Oh, look at that backlit keyboard with the transparent keys. That's so nice. All right, I'm gonna end the stream here. I'm getting very distracted. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Thank you so much for watching episode 290 of The Joy of Coding. Hey, I need to solicit ideas. What are we going to do for episode 300? Let me know in the rate this episode form if you have ideas on things I could do. Maybe do you want me to eat super spicy food while I code again? That's a classic. Or do you want me to have guests? Maybe it's me and Elad Difficult doing some kind of like he plays Crypto the Necrodancer and I code at the same time. Who knows? Let me know in the rate this episode form. I'll read everything that comes in. Thanks again for watching episode 290 of The Joy of Coding. Hope you have yourselves a great day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hold on. Here.
The joy of coding.
See ya.